5 minutes later, a white-coated man emerged from the imaging lab. I don't remember his name, but I remember that his name tag said radiologist. "Your son has a ruptured appendix," he said. "He needs emergency surgery. They're ready for you in surgical prep now. Follow me." Astonished, Sonja and I fell in behind him. Heat surged in my temples. A burst appendix? Hadn't the doctor in Imperial ruled that out? In the surgical prep room, Sonja laid Colton on a gurney, kissed his forehead, and then stepped away as a nurse closed in with an IV bag and a needle. Immediately, Colton began to scream and thrash. I stood at my son's head and held his shoulders down, trying to soothe him with my voice. Sonja returned to Colton's side, crying openly as she kept trying to brace his left arm and leg with her body. When I looked up, the prep room was crowded with men and women in white coats and scrubs. "The surgeon is here," one of them said gently. "If you'll step out and talk with him, we'll take over in here." Reluctantly, we stepped through the curtain, Colton screaming, "Please, Daddy, don't go!" In the hallway, Dr. Timothy O'Halloran waited for us. Dr. O'Halloran was the doctor who had performed the mastectomy on me 4 months earlier. Now his features were set in grim, horizontal lines. He didn't waste words. "Colton's appendix is ruptured. He's not in good shape. We're going to go in and try to clean him out." On the other side of the curtain, Colton was still screaming, "Daddy! Daddy!" Gritting my teeth, I shut out the sound and tried to focus on the doctor. "We asked about a burst appendix in Imperial," Sonja said. "They ruled it out." My brain skipped over the past and looked toward the future, angling for hope. "How do you think he'll do?" I said. "We've got to go in and clean him out. We'll know more when we open him up." The spaces between his words rang in my ears like alarm bells as Colton's screams rang down the halls. In response to a direct question, the doctor had specifically not given us any assurances. In fact, the only thing he had said about Colton was that he was in bad shape. My mind flashed back to the moment Sonja called me in Greeley from Imperial to tell me that Colton's fever had broken and that they were on their way. What had seemed like the end of a stomach flu had more likely been the first sign of a ruptured appendix. That meant poison had been filling our little boy's belly for 5 days. That tally explained the shadow of death we saw on him now, and it explained why Dr. O'Halloran had not offered us any hope. The doctor nodded toward the noise spilling from the prep room. "I think it'll work better if we take him back to surgery and sedate him, then put in the IV." He stepped over to the curtain, and I heard him give the order. A few moments later, 2 nurses wheeled the gurney through the curtain, and I saw Colton writhing. He twisted his tiny form, turning his head until he locked onto me with his sunken eyes. "Daddy, don't let them take me!" Remember when I said pastors don't have the luxury of losing it? I was about to lose it, and I had to get away. After talking to the doctor and then scribbling my name on what seemed to be hundreds of insurance forms, nearly running, I found a small room with a door and ducked in and slammed it shut behind me. My heart raced. I couldn't get my breath. Desperation, anger, and frustration washed over me in waves that seemed to squeeze away my breath. When everybody's freaking out, they all look to Dad, especially when Dad's a pastor. Now I was finally in a room where no one was looking at me, and I began raging at God. "Where are you? Is this how you treat your pastors? Is it even worth it to serve you?" Back and forth I paced the room, which seemed to close in on me, shrinking as surely as Colton's options were shrinking. Over and over, a single image assaulted me. Colton being wheeled away, his arms stretched out, screaming for me to save him. That's when it hit me. We waited too long. I might never see my son alive again. Tears of rage flooded my eyes, spilled onto my cheeks. After the leg, the kidney stones, the mastectomy, this is how you're going to let me celebrate the end of my time of testing? I yelled at God. You're going to take my son?